Hello, everyone, and welcome. Kara Melendi here with your astrology update. And last week we had a really big shift happening in the cosmos with Chiron, the wounded healer, moving into the sign of Aries after spending the last 7 years in Pisces. So we are starting a whole new cycle. And what is really cool to do, I was looking back at this last night, is integrating the lessons of the last 7 years when Chiron was traveling through Pisces. And for so many of us, this was a time of like deep level healing. It was a time of fully stepping into our intuition, developing our intuitive gifts. It was just working through, actually is working through like a lot of pain that we maybe have holding on to for a long time, or that we even took on from previous generations. And it was a time of letting that go. So who do we have here? Amber, yes, you're catching me live. Welcome, beautiful. Jennifer and Chris, Maria, so say hi as you jump on. And I'd love if you could share with me what, like a word, I think sometimes it's hard to find a word, but maybe a word, if it sums up your experience of the last 7 years, like a word or a phrase or some of the transformations that you have been going through while Chiron was traveling through Pisces. I know for me, it was really a time of like stepping into my spirituality in a bigger way. If I look over these past 7 years, it was really looking at what spirituality means to me. It was learning a lot of the principles around law of attraction, around manifestation. It was stepping up as a spiritual leader. And I saw those patterns in the collective as well. So it's just kind of cool. So definitely feel free to share with me, what were the past 7 years like for you if you look back? And the thing with Chiron, it holds so much power. If you've ever had a reading with me, you know that I love to look at Chiron, not only transiting Chiron and where it is in your chart, but your natal Chiron, because it shows where you hold. It shows your greatest power, basically. I want to start there. Chiron holds your greatest power as a teacher, as a manifester, as what you're here to create and put out into the world. But it can also be a glimpse into past life pain that you're holding on to, past life trauma, or even trauma and pain from this lifetime, early on experiences that is meant to be transformed into your greatest power, into your greatest teaching abilities, into helping you fulfill your soul mission, your soul purpose, and like really stepping up and owning that. So there is power in Chiron, and that's what we're looking at today, is what, not only what was happening and kind of integrating our experience with Chiron and Pisces, but now that it moved into Aries, what we're fully stepping into and how we're like stepping into a whole new identity in many ways, where we're learning self-love in a whole new way, and where we are really like unleashing that inner goddess warrior. Hi, Sarah. How are you, beautiful? And Misty, Sharon. And I say hello, 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 and Sharon. Who else do we have here? So definitely say hi as you jump on. Facebook will often show me the names, but you know, one of the things that I love about doing Facebook Lives is that connection. So I can connect with you. I can welcome you in as you jump on. Christy, hello. I'm so glad you're here and reached out, because I'm excited to be on your show again. So I'm going to reach out and we can set up a time. Definitely. Hi, Tony. How are you, goddess? And Marlene, welcome. So if you feel guided to share the last 7 years and what kind of sums up that experience for you, I'd be just so interested to hear. And either way, take some time to reflect yourself, like what that journey was like, because for so many of us, like with Chiron and Pisces, some of the shadow side of that may have been escapism. So for some of us, it may have been going through like earlier on in those 7 years, if we think way back, I don't know what year that would be, but I guess early, I don't even know. But if we're looking back, it's like it may have been working through like addictions at first, different forms of escapism, not wanting to face reality, right? And then as we kind of move through that, we start to realize the power we hold as we look at our pain, right? Instead of trying to shove it down, as we consciously look at it and realizing the power that we have to transform our life. I love how Abraham Hicks talks about our ability to get from wherever we are to wherever we want to be. And I think that's one of the lessons of Chiron as well, is that we don't have to stay stuck in a place of pain, in a place of hurt. fact, we have the ability to transform that and really fully step into our power and understand that we can manifest the life experience we desire. So Chiron in Aries is now going to be here until 2027. So we've got a long time to kind of integrate this. And if we look at the energy of Aries, it is the first sign of the zodiac, and it deals with the self. So everything to do with the self, our self-confidence, our self-love, our identity, how we see ourselves in the world. Aries energy is also the initiator. It's about strength, it's about power, it's about passion. And I think I entitled this video, Unleashing Your Goddess Power. Chiron in Aries is about digging deep and connecting to that inner warrior. It is about discovering the power that you have to heal more quickly. And it can also trigger any of the wounding or pain that we have around how we see ourselves. So this can be our self-image. This can be issues around self-esteem. This can be where we are stuck in fear and helping us return to this place of love, not only for ourselves, love and compassion, but giving that out to others, right? Like the healing power of love. Those are some of the themes we're working with over the next 8 years. So, and let me know if this resonates as well. I think like this shift just happened last week where we are really feeling like we're starting on a new path in our life, right? Like we are starting on a new path of fully stepping up into our leadership abilities as well. Chiron in Aries is about recognizing places where you may have given your power away to other people, other situations, and how to step back into your leader potential. And wherever this is falling in your chart, it's going to show an area where you are really called to step up. So maybe that's in relationships, maybe that's in your career, maybe it's falling in your first house, and it's just how you see yourself, right? And fully stepping up as that leader. All right, I'm going to check in with these comments here. Jennifer, 2012, thank you. I'm like trying to do math in my head while I'm thinking back. Yeah. So if you think back to 2012, what was like initially going on in your life during that time? What were some of the changes, different things that you were dealing with? And there were themes of the collective, right? Like we've seen over these past 7 years, we've seen more people stepping up as light workers. We've seen more talk around intuition. If we even look online or some of the documentaries coming out, right? Like intuition, we're seeing the power in that. That was what Chiron in Pisces was all about, right? And again, very deep level healing. Now in Aries, we're going to see this releasing and letting go happening much more quickly. And also, like kind of stepping into our power with it. Aries stands very strongly in what they know is possible. So that's what we're stepping into, right? It's like possibility. When we notice a limiting belief, whether it's around money, whether it's around our ability to attract a soulmate relationship, we can see where we are blocked with much greater ease now. We can see the limiting beliefs, and we can realize that it's simply a choice to let that go. That it all begins with a choice to choose something different, to notice the patterns that are keeping us stuck, to notice what isn't working, and to simply choose again. So there's like a level of awareness as well. Marlene dealt with another who went through addictions, helped him through it. Powerful. Yeah. Chiron in Pisces was, was a lot of that. Like that's kind of the shadow of Pisces, is where we see that escapism, where we see those addictions happening for sure. But where we also have the strength, right, to get out of that. And we see our power to transform that. Sasha, let's see. I do feel like I'm starting on a new path of self-love and inner growth. Yes. Chiron in Aries really, it does get us to look at self-love. And I was actually talking to my Goddess Sisterhood, my membership site, about love, self-love. And I honestly think that as long as we're in the energy of love, it is so healing in and of itself. And sometimes it's like the hardest person to love is ourselves, because we're in our mind, right? We have these limitations, or we have this perspective that we've held on to, and sometimes it makes it difficult to direct that love toward ourselves. But as long as you're in that energy of love, even if it's directed outward at other people, there is so much power in just being in that energy of love. It really does have the power to transform us, help us step up into our life in so many beautiful ways. Amber, self-image is coming up strong for me right now. So ready to fully step up and take my power back. Chiron is in Taurus in the 12th house for me. Awesome. Yeah. So we all have Chiron in our birth chart somewhere, right? And like, that's where we hold on to pain that we've taken from past lifetimes, from early on, but it's also the key that unlocks our greatest strength. And then for the collective, we now have Chiron in Aries, and that's where we're seeing these themes around self-image. So really taking a look at, how do you see yourself? Are you taking initiative in your life, or are you allowing the fear mind to take over? Sometimes we feel like there's more we have to do before we're ready. So even in terms of more people stepping up and starting a business, sharing their soul gifts with the world, sometimes there's these fears that come up that say, I'm not quite ready yet. Or there's already so many people doing what I want to do. Is there room for me? Do people really need to hear from me? So Chiron in Aries is about owning your story, owning your worth, owning that people do need to hear from you. Like, if there is a message you are called to share, if you know it is your sole purpose to share a certain message, to bring certain services to the world, you are meant to do that. And Chiron in Aries is about building your confidence and having the vision that you hold in your heart be bigger than any of the fears. And that's like a choice, right? Day to day, do I allow the fear to take over? Or do I trust where my heart and where my soul is guiding me? So we're all working on this over the next 8 years. Let me know if this is resonating, or questions or things that are coming up around this. Patricia, I'm called to be motivated to buy a home and have a fresh start for me and my children, but a little lost as to what will come after. Yeah. So that's where it's like trusting the universe as well. Like, we don't always know the step by step. Usually we don't. And when we trust our intuition, it's trust, right? We don't always know how it's going to play out. We don't know what the end result will be, but we have to trust that if we are intuitively guided to take a certain action, that we are meant to, and the universe will support us. And the how it's going to happen, how it's going to pan out, that will be revealed when we have the courage to say yes to our soul and take that next step. Right? People come in that we couldn't even have imagined. Opportunities come up that we never could have thought of. But we first have to have the courage to say yes and follow our intuition and trust. And that really is an exercise of how much we can trust in ourselves, which Aries is all about. Do I trust myself? Do I know that I'm bigger than any obstacle that could come my way? Chiron and Aries is about cultivating that. But it's also about trusting in the universe, and trusting, because opposite Aries is Libra, the sign of relationships. So also trusting that I don't have to do it alone. So knowing that, yes, I do have the power to trust myself. I'm bigger than any obstacle, but that there's people out there that want to support me. There's people out there that want to help me. So it's also about cultivating those relationships and kind of, it's like figuring out who we are in our relationships as well. Chiron and Aries is about that, because again, opposite Aries, we have Libra. Because everything in astrology, it works on an axis. So every sign has an opposite. So what right now with Chiron, we're working with like Aries and Libra. So some of the lessons that we're working with too come through the form of relationships, looking at how our relationships are a mirror for what is going on within us. So if we're being triggered by like key relationships in our life, really taking a look at what part of me is being triggered, and what does that say about where there's room to kind of heal or choose again. Like, our relationships are such amazing teachers, and sometimes the most challenging relationships, the people that trigger us, are the people that spark the greatest growth, if we are willing to go within and ask ourselves what this is revealing about me, right? How can I transform this? And then also, of course, like learning to have those boundaries up, like not allowing toxic people in our life as well. Chiron and Aries, being strong in that, being strong in reinforcing our boundaries, being strong in what we allow in to our life, and looking at the relationships we form, right? What's healthy? What's serving me? How am I showing up in the relationship, and being okay with letting go of what isn't. Okay, let me check in here. Patricia, so I do chart reading, so feel free to reach out because I did open up spots for March. I've got 5 spots open. So if you want to do a deep dive into your chart and see where Chiron is going to affect you, because we each have Aries in a different place in your chart. So if you do know your birth chart and you know where 0 degrees of Aries is, you know where Chiron is going to be moving for you. And again, this is going to be an area in your life where you are called to step up and be that leader. Okay, what else here? Kathy, I'm taking on my daughter's pain right now, but I definitely still love myself. I cannot go back where I was. Yes. It's hard when it's someone we really love, right? And we, like, I get that completely. And even as an empath, right? Like, I just got back from a retreat in Mexico, and I was talking about this to one of the facilitators. When I see somebody in like a place of pain or hurt, like a part of me just wants to take it on. Like, I don't want to see anyone else in pain. I'm like, I'll just take it on. And we were talking about when we take on somebody else's pain or hurt, we're actually not helping the person release it. All we're doing is passing it along. And what we really want to do, right, is hold that loving space for somebody, be there to support them and help them release the pain to the willingness that, to the degree that they're willing, right, to do that as well. But that was such an important lesson to me, right? And probably anybody here who's like a fellow empath, and we see someone hurting and we automatically just take that on. So taking a look at how can I lovingly hold that space without taking that on in my life? Because if we take it on, we then just pass it on to someone else, or then we're both suffering. So we want to hold space for people in our life to be able to release that, right? Or to be there to even help them in practical ways, but to not take it on. And that's a practice in and of itself, right? That is. And like Chiron addresses that. Chiron addresses how we deal with pain in our society, how we're there for other people. And then the other side of that is our power, right? It's like we recognize and step into our power when we have the willingness to look at these questions, right? And address these things in our life. Patricia, I find that I've been trusting more. Beautiful. Yeah, such an important exercise, right? Just like learning to trust ourselves, trust the universe, trust the people around us to support us. Okay, Petya, hello, beautiful. And Claudia. Tony, so 2012, I became a mom, which is starting an entirely new leadership role. Absolutely, yes. So if you're just jumping in now, say hi. And we were looking back at Chiron and Pisces over the last 7 years. So take a look. What was that journey like for you? What were some of the lessons you were processing? And what is the new journey that you feel you're stepping into now in your life? If you like tune in and really feel inward, like what are some of the transformations that are unfolding? Where are you being called to now? And yeah, it's going to be a journey. Chiron and Aries until 2027. So the main thing I would say, and really looking at this energy, is being willing to take a look at where any of the beliefs or limitations that you've kind of placed on yourself and what is possible for you, this is the energy to release it. Like sometimes we see other people doing things that we admire, right? Or that whether that's growing a business, making the money we want in the relationship we want. If we see that in somebody else, it means it is possible for us as well. And if it gets our attention, it probably means that on a deep level, we want that for ourselves and we want that in our life. So know that it is possible. And Chiron and Aries is about knowing that, yes, I am worthy of that. Yes, it is possible for me, and being willing to take the inspired action to make it happen. But it starts by fully saying yes. It starts by fully owning what it is that I want for my life. What's the vision that I have in my heart for how I want to live? Owning that, and then being willing to do the work and take the action. Chiron and Aries will teach us that. And I feel like this is an important thing to pass along as well. If we are willing to look at our relationships as mirrors for what is going on within ourselves, it's a beautiful time for healing in that way, noticing our triggers. So when you're triggered, when you're angry, because Chiron and Aries also deals with how we express anger, right? How we like express anger out into the world, how we deal with anger in ourselves. So when we're triggered by other people, it is that opportunity for massive growth. It is that opportunity to look at what within me was being triggered. So Chiron and Aries, we're going to see a lot of that. Petya, yes to all of that, recognizing ourselves and others. Yeah, because we're all connected. We're all one. We are all one. And Chiron in Pisces was actually a really big lesson in that, how we are all interconnected. And then Chiron in Aries is like looking at that, we are all connected, we are all one. So when we're learning to love ourselves, it's easier to love somebody else. When we can express that love for someone else, it's easier to direct it inward as well. But Chiron in Aries is about recognizing our unique role in this all, right? Like, what is my unique identity? We are all connected on a deep energetic and soul level. And then I feel at the same time, we all come in, right, with different personalities, because the universe wants to uniquely express itself through each of us. So Chiron in Aries is really about owning that. What is the universe wanting to express through me? What is the message that I have in my heart? And having the confidence to then share that with the world, right? Own that and then share it with the world. All right, so I'm going to see if there's any more questions. Other than that, I think we will finish up for today. So if you do want to book a reading, if you want to go deeper with all of this, I do have 5 spots open for March. We'll deep dive into your chart, see how these changes are impacting you, and even take a look at your natal chart and where your Chiron is, because that's a beautiful glimpse into where your power really lies, where your manifestation abilities can really shine through. And it's also a very sensitive spot in our chart. Like when we look at Chiron, people resonate very deeply, like, oh yeah, that's something I kind of struggle with in my life, and I'm ready to leave that behind now. I'm ready to like move forward. So it's a huge like aha moment when we look at Chiron as well. Hello, Kate, beautiful goddess. Pamela's here too. Jenny, welcome. Yeah, so I'll be doing more updates on this as we go along on Chiron and Aries, because again, we are working with this transit until 2027. So it is a new beginning, a new path for many of us in our healing journey, in stepping into our power, stepping into our worthiness, and really defining. In some ways, it can feel like we're defining our identity again. It's like a whole new identity with Chiron and Aries. It's looking at, who am I today? Because we're always changing, right? As we go through life, we're always changing, we're always evolving, and sometimes we just need to check in. That was another thing I learned this past week at the retreat I did in Mexico, was taking time to check in so you can allow your soul to catch up. And that's powerful, right? It's like, take time to check in, take time to rest, allow your soul to catch up with who you are, with where you are today. And we're dealing with that with Chiron and Aries, taking time to breathe, allow our soul to catch up and define, who am I today? Am I just responding based on old programming, based on patterns, based on habits that actually aren't a match to where I'm going or who I know I am? So we're really looking at, how do I want to show up now? What do I want from my life? Having the courage to fully claim that. All right, Patricia, so I will send you all the details on the reading. I will reach out to you when I'm done, and I can send you the details, and you can feel into it and see if it is the right fit for you. All right, so thank you everyone for joining today, for hanging out, sending so much love and light to you all, and I will see you very soon. Bye.